Hello, my name is Shania Bartholomew. Today we will be discussing effective communication and the essentials of public speaking. There are about 7 C's to effective communication. Those C's happen to be clear, concise, correct, concrete, coherent, complete, and courteous. We will further be touching on those topics and the definitions of those further into this upload. And we'll also be discussing the essentials of public speaking and essentially what it would take to be able to further deliver a cohesive and very well put together organized speech. I first want to start off with us discussing the 7 C's of effective communication. Those are C's as in cat. Those 7, as I stated before, include being clear, correct, courteous, considerate, complete, concrete, and concise. These C's are essential to effective communication because they all have to do with the presenter and how they present to the audience. So this way, essentially, you can have that effective communication between presenter and audience. I'd like us to first start off with the first 2 C's, which happen to be clear and concise. When we're asking presenters to be clear when presenting to their audience, we're asking them to be clear in a couple of different ways. We're asking them to be clear with the way that they're presenting to their audience, essentially clear about their topic and their delivery. And we also want them to be clear in making sure that they don't use too much professional jargon. You don't want to assume that every member of the audience is within your professional realm. And when we're further discussing presenters being concise, it's to ensure that they're using straight to the point and simple language. This way also, again, not to confuse the audience. The next 2 C's I'd like us to discuss would be to be concrete and correct. When we're discussing presenters being concrete, essentially it just means ensuring that all the information that you're presenting to your audience, can you build on top of it? Building basically meaning, can you use this point to further elaborate on this point? And also making sure that the information is correct. There's a term out there called concrete evidence. They mainly use this in the law field, but essentially you want to make sure that the information you're presenting is concrete. So you're building trust with your audience as well. Concrete and correct go just about hand in hand. As I stated before, you do want to make sure that the information that's being presented to your audience is correct. Correct essentially meaning spelling is correct, information is correct, timelines, different things that make up the information that you're presenting. The next 2 C's I'd like us to focus on would be for the presenter to be coherent and courteous. When we discuss the presenter being coherent, essentially we're speaking on things flowing throughout the presentation. You never want the audience to feel like they're jumping around from part to part. You want everything to flow seamlessly within the presentation and your speech. All the information that the presenter is providing to the audience should definitely be a seamless flow of information that once all put together makes the presentation understandable to the audience and easy for them to digest. And also when we're discussing being courteous, we're discussing the presenter having empathy and respect for their audience the same way that they would expect the audience to have empathy and respect for them. It further also shows that the presenter is willing to listen to the audience as well, and it does also build credibility amongst the presenter and the audience. Last but definitely not least would be complete. The information that you're presenting, you want to make sure is complete to the audience. You want to make sure that nothing is open-ended, and at the end of it, the audience doesn't have more questions than they had walking into the presentation. Making sure that the presentation is also complete, what it does is it allows the audience from there to, if they like, take their own course of action based on the information that was given to them in the presentation. Now that we've successfully discussed effective communication, I do think it's important that we discuss the essentials of public speaking. Now, public speaking is not for everyone, and hopefully with this checklist, we are able to get those who are not the best at public speaking on the road to being more comfortable with that. Now, when it comes to public speaking, It's important that the presenter knows their audience as well as knows the topic. It's also important that you research the topic and structure your speech so this way you at least have some organization. We also want the presenter to be able to really connect with the audience. And one of the ways to really connect with the audience is to be able to be within the physical space of the presentation. This way, it gives you an idea of how many people are going to be there, what sections there are to the room, and which portion of the room may at that point be receiving less communication from the presenter. So this way they can focus their attention everywhere throughout the room. So one section of the audience doesn't necessarily feel left out and is also receiving effective input. Presenters should also want to set goals for their speech. Goals essentially being what you hope to walk away from after the end of the speech. What information would you have wanted the audience to take away from the most? What impact did you hope to have on the audience? Things like that. You also want to make sure that you practice your speech as many times as possible. Practicing the speech as many times as possible makes sure that it leaves little to no room for errors in speaking. Once you essentially have an outline of what you want to say, it's important to make sure that the details to that outline match. So making sure that you are able to comprise a speech that makes sense and flows seamlessly. As well as making sure to be aware that the day of your presentation, things happen. So you want to make room for any technical errors. You want to make room for any other distractions that may be a part of it. It's also very helpful for presenters to study other presenters and how they interact with their audience. TED Talk is one of the biggest platforms that allows other viewers, a viewer like myself, to be able to look at other presenters and be able to see how they interact with their audience, see the type of confidence that they have on stage, and essentially see what they bring to their presentations that'll differentiate them from other presenters as well.